I'm back!
So a couple days ago, I finally got around to watching The Goldfinch, which is a film that I had been highly anticipating since the trailer came out. The trailer looked beautiful, it sounded beautiful, it had an amazing cast, and so when I saw that trailer, I was immediately like, this is gonna be my favorite movie of the year. And then it was released. And even though it was getting shit on by like the entire universe, I still really wanted to see it. I thought that if anything, it would be worth it just because of the cinematography, because of how beautiful it is, and I know that it has a very dedicated fan base. So I still wanted to give it a shot, and I finally did, and after watching it, it really wasn't that bad. Of course, I'll go into detail about what I liked and what I didn't like about it, but I absolutely did not think it was deserving of all the criticism it got. Is it my favorite movie of the year as I anticipated? Absolutely not. But I still think it's worth watching, especially if you were ever wanting to give it a shot. An obligatory disclaimer that I have not read the book. I do own the book, but unfortunately I am illiterate, so I have not read it. So yeah, take all of my opinions on this with a grain of salt, because I probably don't know what I'm talking about. I guess I'll start with discussing the plot of this movie, or the lack thereof in this case. The plot, or the main plot, is almost unintelligible. From what I got, the main plot of this movie is how the painting of the goldfinch is this like pillar of consistency in Theo's life, and what it represents to him and what it means to him throughout his life. But unfortunately that plot gets very muddied by everything else going on. It's a very loud movie in a sense that there's a lot going on to the point where it's hard to decipher what the significance of anything it is. The best way that I can describe what this movie feels like is that it feels like they filmed a bunch of scenes, put those scenes on shuffle play, and this was the result. It really felt like there was no rhyme or reason or structure to anything happening in this. I get that it's okay to deviate from the natural, I guess, structure of storytelling. I quite like unconventional methods of storytelling and unconventional structures, but this one, it just felt like there was no structure at all, and it kind of was hard to get a grip on. For example, the whole first part of this movie revolves around young Theo and him trying to find a family after his mother's death and all of that, and that goes on for like 30-40 minutes, and then it cuts to older Theo, and there's like 10 minutes of older Theo. It's just some random scenes, and then we go back to young Theo for like another 30-40 minutes, and then the rest of the movie is about older Theo. There's no structure, there's no, it just really feels like a mess. It feels, like I said, it feels like they put it on shuffle. It's kind of unfortunate because a lot of the individual scenes in this movie are very, very good. Honestly, some of my favorite individual scenes of the whole year came out of this movie. There's a lot of scenes that I think I will revisit and rewatch because I liked them so much. The main one is the scene of young Theo and young Boris, the pool scene with them. The whole part where they're like tripping on acid is really good. I really liked the scene of older Theo and older Boris, when Boris is telling him that they found the painting and he says, "Happy Christmas, Potter." I really like that scene. There's a lot of really good scenes in this movie, but the fact that they're all stitched together so poorly does kind of take away from it. Something that I believe Karsten Runquist pointed out in his review is that it handles a lot of very serious topic in a very surface level manner. For example, Theo is obviously struggling with some kind of PTSD or mental illness. He is an addict, he's an alcoholic, He's been through many abusive relationships, abusive households, and all of these aren't very elaborated on. There's not really any kind of like analysis or character study aspects to the way that any of these themes are presented, and I really wish there were. I will give the story the benefit of the doubt though, that it is a movie based off of a like 1,000-page book, so I assume that the book does delve more into these themes and there's more complex, multi-dimensional analysis of it, but in terms of the movie, it really does not go into these themes the way I wish it did. Yeah, the way I describe the plot of this movie is that there's so much going on, yet simultaneously so little going on. As everyone and their mom has already pointed out about this movie, the visual aspect is hands down the best aspect. Roger Deakins, the cinematographer, is a literal god. There are so many shots in this movie that will stick with me, that I consider some of my favorite shots in cinema history. Honestly, I feel like if you watch any Roger Deakins movie, you will leave with some of your favorite shots in cinema history just because his cinematography is that good. The cinematography is absolute art. If the story or performances in any given scene were dull, then the cinematography absolutely made up for it. It made even the most boring scenes of this movie still very intriguing, and it still kept my eyes glued to the screen just because it was so beautiful and I wanted to see what the next thing was going to look like. The editing is headache-inducing. There are so many jump cuts in this movie, especially during conversations. It will cut back and forth like every 2 seconds, and I cannot stand when movies are edited like that. I know that to some people it's not really that much of a noticeable thing, but to me it's so noticeable and it's so irritating. I don't like movies with a ridiculous amount or an unnecessary amount of jump cuts. Again, I know the casual viewer probably won't care, probably won't notice, but it's just like a nitpicky thing. I can't stand when movies are edited with so many jump cuts. The performances are definitely more of a hit or miss thing, which oh no. The performances were definitely kind of a hit or miss thing, which I was surprised by. The cast it has a star-studded cast, and so I was not really expecting to be let down by anyone in this movie, but I kind of was. Oakes-Fagley as young Theo, and Ben Wolfhard as Boris Pavlov's dogs were absolutely the highlight of this movie in my opinion. The young Boris and young Theo scenes made this movie so much more enjoyable, even though the topics that the scenes of young Theo and young Boris were dealing with were so heavy and emotional. They were still in a way very heartwarming to watch just because they almost had like a coming of age movie feel to them. The whole film honestly could have been like just young Theo and young Boris fucking around, and I probably would have enjoyed it more, honestly. Just give me Roger Deakins cinematography and young Theo and young Boris tripping on drugs for 2.5 hours and I'll be satisfied. Considering all of the acclaimed actors in this movie, I did not expect Luke Wilson to be the standout. He played such a genuinely horrifying deadbeat dad. I love Nicole Kidman to the ends of the earth, but I was really disappointed by her in this movie. I felt like she was just very flat the whole time. Definitely did not deliver as much as I thought she would, but I honestly can't tell if that comes down to her shallow character writing or if it was just her like phoning it in. I literally did not wrap up my notes in any way, so that's all I wrote, and I don't know how to end this now. But yeah, that's my hot take, or my freezing cold take. This movie's been out for like 3 months. Who the fuck cares about my opinion on this? Anyways, that's my thoughts on The Goldfinch. Hopefully I can get around to reading the book. I am interested in reading the book, but as I said, I can't read, so there's that. But yeah, if you enjoyed, you can hit that subscribe button. I make videos every time I have something I need to complain about, so you can look forward to that. But yeah, I'll see you in 3 months.